Hello and welcome back to another webinar series of Circuit Digest. In this video, we'll be discussing about a company which manufactures agriculture-based systems and controllers to automate the entire agriculture process so that our farmers can save water, save on electricity, and also can avoid the labor problems. So the company we'll be discussing about today is called Avanijal Agri Automation. And to discuss about that, we have Mr. Vijendra, who is the co-founder and the director of the company. So let's hear from him. Hello, sir. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. How about you?
Yeah, I'm also very good, sir. So, sir, tell us about Avanijal and its plan for digitalizing agriculture using smart irrigation technology. So, what exactly does your company do?
So our company is involved in the pre-harvest activities on the farm, which are primarily, the growing part of the crop. So in the growing part of the crop, farmer is involved in cultivating the crop, and then till the harvest he has to take care of certain things which are irrigation and nutrient management. And there are other activities which we are not involved in terms of the de-weeding and other things, and the pest management. We are not involved right now in that. Our involvement is in helping the farmer in managing their irrigation and nutrient delivery using automated systems with the help of different technologies which we deploy as part of the product.
So, sir, Avanijal was actually started in 2013, and so far you have been spending time in understanding the market and perfecting your solution. And right now, you even have your first product called Nikash. So, over these years, what were some of your key findings that you have done?
See, we started in 2013, and my other co-founder is from the agriculture family. So he had certain viewpoint about how things are done, how agriculture is practiced in India. We started from basics. We knew that we had to help the farmers in their irrigation management, and we knew that the world is facing water problems, and India is no exception. And we had other problems as well. We knew that, and we wanted to help the farmers with the technology intervention. And other factor which was in our mind was agriculture is one of the areas which had the least amount of technology intervention. More so in India, I would say. Probably the same is true in around the world in different places, but there are other countries which are much ahead in this aspect. So when we started looking at what does the farmer need in terms of help, so we went around and looked at what their problems are, and we saw that they have less water to irrigate. That's one basic problem. Secondly, to pump the water, they need power, electricity, which also is in short in India. We might say that there are villages electrified and all of that, but that is true only to the extent of domestic electricity. But irrigation power is still in short. Only I think the irrigation power, they get irrigation power only for about 6 to 8 hours. 8 hours is again a luxury. Probably 6 hours is more is the rule, and in summer probably they get even lesser. That is the second problem. Third problem is, in spite of being, very populous country, and 60% of the people living in the rural areas of our country, 60 or maybe even higher, they find it hard to, get good labor, good farm labor to manage their farm activities like irrigation, de-weeding, and fertilizer delivery, and things like that. So the reason has been because the rural population is migrating towards urban areas in search of more stable income, which is not the case in rural areas. Rural agriculture and income is more seasonal. Only when the agriculture activity is going on, the labor will earn money. Otherwise, probably they'll have to engage themselves in some other activities. So that is another problem. See, these are all not created by somebody or a section of people, but it is the whole problem. So these are three key problems, and the fourth one is the lack or adoption of practices, but good practices in agriculture. If you go and see the practices of agriculturists, most of them are still stuck, decades ago from what their father or their grandfather was doing, and only few people have adopted better practices by learning from the scientific community, or looking at others, and through their own thought process evolution. At the same time, the scientific community's involvement in agriculture at a practice level is also low. I'm not saying it is nil, but I think there is still a lot of it's very lacking in terms of better interaction and then better transfer of technology in terms of how to do it. So this is what we discovered, and then we kept talking to different people in terms of their practical problems other than these things. So we took all those things into consideration while developing the product, and we looked at what are the products which are already available in the market. Most of them were imported products, not Indian. There are a couple of other companies which are at our own stage of starting the company in India and to develop these things, but they were again, very, very early stage. So they were not, benchmark products for us to look at. So most imported products, we looked at them and then what features they provide. Are they suitable for Indian farmers? What are their price points and those kind of things? All that went into design of our product. It took about 3.5 years for us to develop this product.
Okay. So, can you tell me more about your product, which is Nikash? Do you have any variants in it? Say, for example, if you're deploying your product into a farmland, what are the minimum devices that has to be deployed into the field, and how does it work?
Okay. So initially our plan was to have few variants of the product targeting different segments of the farming community. But later we realized that that may not be the right model, because a lot of people were asking, okay, I need this, but I need one more feature which is not in this product. So we said, okay, we will make basic product available, and then there are 20 other features, both hardware and the software functional features, which they can pick and choose at a different price, adding to their basic product. So that is the current model in terms of offering. What it helps at the most basic level, the farmer, is delivering the required amount of water to each part of the farm. Their farm may be 5 acres or 10 acres, and they may be growing more than one crop in their farm. And each crop requires different amount of waters and different amounts of nutrient and different types of nutrient. So once they know what they want to deliver in terms of water and nutrient, they can program those things. Once the system is deployed, they can program with the help of an app which we provide on their smartphone. They can program what they want to deliver, how much water they want to deliver, or how much nutrient they want to deliver at what intervals, and for how long in a day, or how long at different intervals and things like that. Once that is done, whenever there is power available, the controller will keep monitoring the power and voltages, so that it does not go out of range for the pump to be functional correctly. So that way the pump is protected in the case of over voltage and under voltage. And then it delivers that amount of water. Primarily the most basic way of delivering is what people are used to is time. I will deliver water for half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, and things like that. It's coarsely related to, loosely related to the amount of water to be delivered. If you ask a scientist or an agronomist, they will say, okay, deliver 10,000 liters or 12,000 liters of water per acre. But measuring water flow and then taking that feedback and then controlling, that's the next step. That is a more precise way of doing it, because it adds to the cost of flow meter and other things. Most people are used to delivering water by time. There can be a lot of variation in terms of 30-40% in terms of based on the voltage variation, based on level of water in a bore well, that can happen, but people are okay with that. They can live with that kind of variation. So because they want to save cost. So whenever there is power, it will deliver for 1 hour, 2 hours, to different zones. And at the end of the irrigation, if the power is still there, it will not continue with irrigation, because you might have said, okay, don't continue immediately with the next cycle. It will probably wait for that wait time. If farmer can program that, okay, once irrigation cycle is done for all the area, you wait for another 12 hours or 20 hours and things like that, and then you initiate like that. He can program. So it will wait for that period, and then start the next day, or start after 12 hours or whatever thing. When again the power comes, it will do that. So this is the most basic functionality. I talked about a couple of things. One is voltage variation and going out of range. This is another problem. One is the quantity of power available for farming, for irrigation. Other is the quality of power. Quality of power, I will define it as the voltage being in the range. Secondly, it is available continuously for 6 hours. If that is what the electricity supply companies say. And it's not true actually. Every half an hour or 1 hour, 10 minutes, there is power interruption. It keeps going and coming back. So it creates hell a lot of problem for even for the on the farm labor to go and turn it on, turn it off, and set the valve, whichever valve has to be turned on at any given point in time. These are the problems. And again, when the power is available in the night, nobody wants to go to farm and then manage the irrigation, including the owner of the farm will not want to go because it is risky. Night time there could be any creature. It's far off from his home, things like that. So it makes it reduces those kind of difficulties.
Okay. So, sir, moving on to the next question. How practical is your system? So, can it be used only for large-scale farmers with a large area of land, or can it also be utilized by mid-scale and small-scale farmers?
Yes. For individual farmers, anybody who has 5 acres and above can use our system. It is cost-effective. They can get back their returns, the investment in terms of returns, in terms of labor cost saving as well as yield improvement, which are purely economic for a farmer. They can get back their money in about 1 to 2 years, provided they are growing a medium to high value crop. These are not very suitable for paddy and wheat because they are the most stable crops and staple crops, and then there is not very high not even medium commercial value. So any horticulture crops, it could be coconut, areca nut, banana, papaya, any fruit trees, flowers, like pomegranate, grapes, and all of that. Very, very suitable. Flowers, fruits, they are very suitable for these kind of things. And for small farmers, there is another way to use it. Somebody has 1 acre, 2 acres. It can be used again, but in a community farming method. Let's say if there are 4 or 5 farmers coming together to use this system, one control system, one solution can be deployed for 4 or 5 farmers. They can share the cost of the controller and then still get what they want to be done in terms of their own irrigation and nutrient management. So it can, that is one way of doing it. Secondly, that is, let's say if you have only one source of water to be delivered to multiple farmers. There is another way, let's say they have their own water source like borewell, but they have a very small land like 1 acre or 2 acres. Our control system can act like a multi-user system, up to 4 users. And then from one, their own water source to their own farm, it can deliver using, through their own pipeline. Like that, it can, each farmer can control their own part of their water source and delivery of water up to 4 farmers. That way, again, the cost of controller can be shared, which will enable a small farmer to be able to use it. In some of our customer cases, that is how it is done. Not directly, farmers did not buy this directly, but it is enabled through an NGO, which is helping the farmers in this case.
Okay. So, sir, when you deploy the system into the field, what kind of data do you collect? What are the different sensors that are being deployed, and how much data do you collect, and what analysis do you do with this data?
Yes. So right now we are collecting data, but we are yet to do the analysis, which is in our plan for the in the immediate future. What kind of data we collect is, what amount of irrigation happened. It is a time or volume. As I said, if one adopts a flow meter, they can precisely deliver 8,000 liters or 9,000 liters or 10,000 liters per every zone, whatever is the amount they plan. That is one thing they can program. So the amount of water delivered, amount of fertilizer delivered, either in time or volume, that is what is gathered. That is probably the most important thing in terms of agronomical analysis, which is what we were planning to do. Let's say you have this data for along with other data in terms of what was the condition, ground condition, and the atmospheric condition at that time. I'll come to that. Once you have that, an agronomist can look at that whole data for the whole cycle of the crop and then suggest better practices for the next cycle. That is at a very macro level. That is what we are planning to do going forward. And other data is collected in terms of how long was the power, when did the power come, those kind of data will be available for other stakeholders in this whole process in terms of optimizing power, optimizing power supply, and those kind of things. They may be useful in going forward. You asked about sensing and other thing. Initially we wanted to see whether we can deploy the on-the-ground sensor for soil moisture sensing, soil temperature sensing, and weather data, weather temperature and humidity and all of that. It so happens that for every zone you need to deploy these sensors, at least for the soil, and one sensor for the atmosphere, as a whole. Practically, there are no company, I would say literally no companies which have developed good sensors which can be deployed very easily, for the soil part. So we had to import and do this integration with our solution. But what we realized is they are so expensive, it becomes impractical for a farmer to deploy for every zone and then be useful, make the use of it. So we looked at other alternate solution, what could be, what can give similar data and what can help the user, though it may not be as accurate as real time, but it comes at a very, very low cost. So we looked at other one, which is what we are trying to offer now, which is satellite image based sensing.
Okay.
Deep learning artificial intelligence is applied on the image which is acquired from multiple satellites, both visible and the radar data, as well as this is this image process data is also crunched with the weather data for that particular area in terms of what is the temperature, air temperature, humidity, and those kind of things. And then a recommendation for that day is arrived at. So our controller is integrated with that kind of a system, which is this part is offered by one of our partner companies. We have integrated with that. Our controller will go and tell that, okay, yesterday I irrigated so much water. What is that I need to irrigate today? And then it will get back in few seconds, because it already has all this data. It has to compute. It will compute in few seconds and get back and say, today, you have your on the ground conditions are so and so. The soil moisture is gone down 10%, and then temperature is likely to be also 5%, 2 degrees lesser because it is cloudy. So you irrigate maybe 5% less water.
So all these data is concluded from the satellite images, or do we still have to deploy some sensors in the field?
No on the ground sensors.
Okay.
No on the ground sensors. So the only on the ground sensor we may have to deploy, even in this case, maybe we are still thinking about, is a rain sensor.
Okay.
Rain is a very discrete event. It is not a continuous event. And India having very, very small microclimatic zones, it may rain here and it may not rain in the next kilometers, square kilometers. So that way, if it rains a lot, we may have to stop irrigation, and that is what we may want to do. But otherwise, all of it's a very economical sensor. Couple of ₹1,000 you may be able to get a rain sensor. But that too, if it rains a lot, you can set that measurement. If it rains 10 millimeters, only then you shut off irrigation, something like that. Those kind of things can be done. But otherwise, all other data comes from the multiple satellites.
Okay. So, sir, replacing these sensor nodes with satellite image, clever plan. How far have you tested this, and how feasible do you think it would be? Could it be a viable replacement for the ground sensors?
Yes, it is. It is a viable replacement. It's only thing that on the ground sensors, after you deploy correctly, you have to calibrate it correctly, and then before you get to do that, it may take a couple of days. But in the case of the satellite image processing based sensing, it takes a couple of weeks for the values to be stabilized. It has to learn for that area. But if there are few more sensors deployed, other areas covered in the same area, probably that learning time can be reduced, but it will take a couple of weeks in a new zone, new area where we deploy that for it to learn and do that. It is a very economical one. It can cost a couple of ₹1,000 per acre per year. For a farmer to use this kind of system. It's still in early stage. The accuracy is supposed to be about 80 to 85% compared to on the ground sensors. So that way it is pretty accurate. You don't need 100% accuracy when you are doing agriculture kind of sensing. So that way it is pretty practical solution, but it has to take time. People still may not believe. Now a lot of people started believing on the ground sensor, but when you tell them that I don't deploy anything on the farm, but I can still tell you what is that you need, they think it is still black magic. It will take some time for farmers to even believe that, and then agree. So we have started doing it for very, very few customers.
Okay, sir. Okay. So, sir, one big difficulty with these kind of agriculture solutions is these systems should be deployed at the farmer's place who is not very technically good, and these systems should be robust because if they're staying in the field, it will be exposed to sunlight, exposed to rain. Many people are even trying wireless connectivity between the nodes and the actual actuators. So what kind of technical difficulties do you face with Avani Gel when you're deploying these solutions, and how are you tackling those problems?
Yeah, so currently our control system, which is deployed along with the actuators, it requires some shelter. It requires some rainproof shelter. It's not an IP ingress protected box. So we didn't feel that is very necessary, because anybody who has this, they have some kind of shelter, even if they don't have a room. We have been able to deploy it in a very stand out boxes like a Syntex box or some kind of a metallic box, those kind of wooden or a cement boxes, which is good enough. It has to be rain-proof shelter. That's what it is. It has been working at higher temperatures, obviously at 40-45 degrees kind of geographies in India. It has been working. But the biggest challenge we face anywhere is the quality of power. The variation of input power is so high. We had to redesign our power supply circuit many times to be able to meet the widest range and then protect our system from all the issues created by this kind of incorrect deployment or incorrect supply issues. And even many places farmers use very bad methods to tap power from those
Power
the
tapping
power
is a
supply
problem.
cables. Power tapping, it can create a lot of spikes and surges on the power system. That we burned a couple of controllers before we realized what was happening. And now we have designed it very stably, the whole system. Obviously, along with our controller, we have to some accessories we have to install to be able to manage all this properly. That is what we have realized. Everything we should not design ourselves. We should use what is available off the shelf, and very economical. That way, the whole solution is very affordable for the farmers. So that is what we have done. That is the biggest challenge we faced, I would say, power. Secondly, lightning can cause damages because the wires are spread out through the farm. Any kind of lightning can damage. So how do you protect? And you cannot protect against lightning, but you can only take some precautions. So the way we design our box and cabling and all that, it is very easily removable. The cables are easily removable, and then you can turn off the power, and so that you can protect the controller during those rainy season. And there are other ways of handling the damages, those kind of things like that. Insurance and those kind of things can help you save your cost, repair cost, and get warranty and things like that. So those are some of the challenges we have faced. Yes, I agree. Awareness among farming community has been a biggest challenge in terms of penetrating our market reach. So that is still the biggest challenge. Secondly, they have been used to not paying the full amount because they get subsidy for a lot of different things they buy. They ask that is another thing. This part, automation systems are not subsidized by most governments, though Karnataka government declared they will have something, but I think it did not get rolled out, or rolled out probably in the most efficient way. Maybe it's still not there actually. Those are some of the challenges in terms of market reach challenges, I would say. Then the power source being solar, we work with the solar power also, but it has its own challenge in terms of the power variations and all that due to the radiation. So we have done some improvements those due to that, all of these things.
Okay.
So to test our product itself in the early stage, for anything which can be tested normally in one day, we had to take about 4 or 5 days, because the power is available only for 3 hours or 4 hours in the in the farm. You have to wait till next day before you continue your testing. Those are some of the challenges in testing, I would say. Those are the I can talk about that.
Okay, so sir, let's go back to the satellite imaging technique you told. So you told that you have already tested in few places, and it is a viable replacement for the probe sensor. So in future plans of Avanigel, can we expect that you will completely pivot into this satellite imaging system instead of probe system? Do you think you will make a complete shift over?
As of now, we are not offering on the ground sensing as part of Avanigel solution. See, if somebody really wants it, we have other companies who may supply that. We may integrate with that. Right now, we are not even talking about it, because once you talk about it, then they will ask for the price, and once you tell the price, they will say, I don't want it. So there is no point in wasting a lot of time telling that sensing is available, but at this price. It's a waste of time, their time and our time as well. It's no point in trying to drag them to deploy a very expensive solution. We know that even in Western countries, people can't afford these solutions if they have large farms. It's very difficult. It's not a very practical solution, the on the ground sensing.
Okay.
See, we know that there may be other service provider like this who may provide. We may want to collaborate with more than one such satellite image processing recommendation service providers. We may integrate with them to be able to offer customers different choices. But I think that is a way to go. That the reason is it starts at a lower cost, though it is not very, very accurate, and it has its own learning time. I think as the time goes by, because it is a learning system, it will get better. It will only get better. It cannot get worse. Another problem with the on the ground sensing is, as the roots go deeper and deeper, you have to keep shifting the height of the sensor. Secondly, whenever you are changing the crop, you have to change the depth and take it out and then redeploy. All of these practical issues, I think they are too cumbersome. They are too cumbersome for anybody to do that. And again, it will have its own maintenance, annual maintenance fees and things like that, which I think will be very dissuading for any user to deploy.
So, sir, how many installations have you completed so far, and what kind of responses are you getting for your system?
Yeah, we started selling since 3 years. I would say we have about 45 installations so far in few states in Karnataka, Maharashtra, and some in UP, and like that very recently. That is what is our thing, and most our farmers, they are either having 5 to 10 acres, and one of the largest farmer is about 100 acres in Maharashtra. The beauty of that is, if the irrigation system is well designed, our solution can manage even 50, 100, 200 acres with one control system. That is how it is. It's not our own. We don't do everything. We cannot say that, okay, our controller does everything, but irrigation system which is designed underneath this also has to be properly designed. Only then you can get the benefit of this and the cost efficiencies of this whole thing. So since it is a layer above the basic irrigation system.
Okay. So, sir, how do you see the market for smart irrigation systems in India? Like, do you think India is ready for such technology? Are people ready to adapt smart irrigation into their practice? What is your thought about this, sir?
It is still nascent, I would say, in India. Because the awareness itself is lacking in most people. Only about few percent of the farmers, very small percent, maybe less than 5% of the farmers who are even wanting to try on their own. And then, first of all, it requires a micro irrigation to be set up. 25% of the farmers have deployed. Out of that, 85% of them will be small and marginal farmers. On their own, they will not be able to deploy this kind of thing. Somebody has to help them, or they have to come together in a cooperative basis. So what it leaves is about 10-15%. And then again, in that small percentage of farmers are aware, and then they are wanting to try it out. So that way, at this stage, it is very nascent, but still catching up. I would say, if you ask me 5 years ago, when we tell that, okay, the sensing and those sensors and all of that, people didn't even know what it is. But today, we are getting so many calls on, asking for automation system, and immediate question they ask is, hey, do you have sensors? Do you provide them? And things like that. So they have become aware of that. Whoever knows about automation system, they are also aware of the sensing. So that means it's catching up in the last 5 years. So, and people think that, okay, because in the early days, imported systems have been very expensive, and then maybe our system also is very expensive. Our system probably cost 20-25% of the imported systems. So that awareness about the economics of that also has to come into picture. And we, being a small company, we are taking we cannot disseminate this information largely in a local area, but we are using digital means to do that. In our own way of business development has been that not to have our own sales and support force in our area of geography, but work with partners, like drip irrigation companies and other irrigation service providers, to spread this message as well as sell and deploy. So this will take a lot of time, but I think outside India, it is a very mature market. There is a lot of potential, but in India, I think it's still catching up. It will take few years for it to really take off in a big way. But I think any government intervention like subsidy for these kind of things, that might have a certain positive effect also, provided it is done well. So that's I would say.
So that is it, sir. I'm done with most of my questions here. So is there anything that you would like to add to this interview in this discussion?
What I would say is, see, one is you asked about the farmer's direct benefit. It's about saving money and earning more money. That happens through two ways. One is saving the labor, or actually, a lot of people who are using our system, they are not able to get any labor. Forget saving money. They don't get any labor to manage, so they deploy automated system. Secondly, with a better handling of water and fertilizer, they will certainly get better yield, which will help them get more money from the same amount of resources they are deploying. These are the direct benefits to the farmer. Other benefits which farmer does not see today, actually, because there is saving in water, better utilize water use efficiency, which will help the society as a whole in reducing the water usage in farming, which is upwards of 75 to 80%. Okay, and that is direct agriculture. And if you take the what do you say, other areas which use food processing and all of that, probably it will hit 90%. Close to 90%. So what is left for the remaining industrial and domestic purposes 10 to 15%. So if you reduce water usage in agriculture, probably, which is easily possible by deploying micro irrigation as well as the use of such better methods of automating, and then also recommendation and things like that, sensing and delivery. You will save water and use less fertilizer. So that saves cost to the farmer, as well as use less fertilizer to grow the same amount of crop would help reduce the soil contamination, which has been a big issue in some places in India, due to which people have been getting contaminated water, and it has led to diseases, is what we hear. That can reduce. So there are other societal benefits, and then once this is all done well, energy consumption also goes down. Now there is a thinking that a lot of people still think that irrigating more water will lead to better crop yield, which is not true. There are researchers have shown that if you over irrigate, the yield will start reducing. So you irrigate the right amount of water, you will save water, you will save energy also. So which will probably, today I think the energy consumption by the agriculture sector is close to about 30%, 20%. 20%, national average is about 20%. Certainly it can be reduced, if all such measures are taken. I would say, basically these kind of interventions will help the individual farmers as well as the society in utilizing the resources better. You're not using whatever means you have, the intelligence and the automation and those kind of things, which will only help make it better for everybody, people who are using as well as people who are dependent on them.
Okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Like, it was a very interesting discussion. I believe so much people will be, especially that satellite imaging thing. I think it's a new thing, especially in India. I don't think many people are doing this. I'm sharing this for the first time. So it's going to be an interesting read for many people. And again, I thank you so much for sharing your time and discussing all these things. So
thank you so much.